Hey, Jody here with weldingtipsandtricks.com. This week's video is about welding helmets. I got lots of them. What you see in front of me here, as well as what's on the wall here, is not even the whole collection. I don't really collect them. It's just that, you know, I don't throw them away. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Welding helmets, some tips on, you know, wearing glasses, using cheater lenses. So what I've got before me here is some unusual welding helmets, like out of the box, unusual thinking on these things. This is made by Optrel. It's a very new product called the Weld Cap. And actually, it comes with a little letter to me from the guy that sent it to me. And it goes like this. Hey Jody, I said in my message, this is a Facebook message, that I bought one of these for Scott Gleason. Scott Gleason is a guy who's in a wheelchair. He was injured somehow and he's in a wheelchair, but he still likes to work on cars and things like that. He does a little bit of welding, and he was trying to weld with some goggles on and he had a picture of him doing it on Facebook. So I bought these for Scott Gleason because he's in a wheelchair and trying to weld with goggles. I bought one for myself too, and an extra. If you want to do a giveaway or keep it for yourself, it's up to you, Jeff Perry. Well, thanks, Jeff, for number one, for sending one to Scott Gleason. That was a kind thing to do. And thanks for sending one my way to do a review on it. I haven't really thought about a giveaway yet, but if we do that, it will be on. I'll announce it on Facebook. And because this YouTube video will be out there for years to come, and it might confuse people to see a giveaway on it. All right, so, but thank you. I had a chance to try this one out a little bit, and I'll weigh in on it shortly. All right, these are unusual welding helmets, and what makes them unusual is they're just out of the norm a little bit. Like this one is called a Weld Cap, and it's just got, you know, it's just a very small little hard shell face with a lens that's got a nose cut out so you can get the lens closer to your face, and it's all cloth except for the hard shell face plate, and it's different. It fastens to your head like a ball cap. And, you know, I tried it out. All I can tell you is I'm an old dog, and it's not for me. But if somebody, I'm sure that it'll work just fine for somebody. And there are going to be people that enjoy wearing this. But it's not, I'm just too used to wearing a welding helmet. And there's too many other choices out there for me to want to go this route. Okay? This was sent to me by the owner of AccuStrike, Cherokee Industries, I believe the name of the company. It's called the AccuStrike chin operated helmet. Now this, I actually owned one of these over 20 years ago. Back, here's the thing, 20 to 25 years ago there were Auto-dark helmets coming on the scene, and largely they were crap. They, you know, someone came by and dropped one off at the job I was working. We're welding, you know, airplane parts, and so we're doing light gauge TIG for the most part, light amperage TIG, and he brought by a helmet. It was supposed to be the top of the line. It was about a $500 helmet, and it was total crap. He never even came and got it back. You couldn't give that thing away to anybody in the shop because who wants to get flashed, and who wants to look, you know, when there's a whole corner of the lens not darkening. And so they've come a long way. Auto-darkening helmets now are way better than they were. They're, you know, they're getting better and better all the time. But this is an option to an auto-dark helmet. It's got a little chin scoop in there that's adjustable. And so when you open your jaw, it raises up the lens and closes it. Now, I owned one of these back then because auto-dark wasn't really an option for me. They just weren't good. I owned this and used it for a good year, and I had another friend that used one for even longer, and it works. It's an option. Now the good thing about this, the really good thing about this is it doesn't matter how low amperage you go, you will not get flashed. And when you open your mouth, let me show you here real quick. Typically what you do is you just open your chin just enough to get a little peek, and of course you're looking at clear, not shade 3, not shade 4, clear, and you position your tungsten where you want it, and then you close the lens, and then you light up, and it works. You don't get flashed. Doesn't matter if you're welding half an amp, 1 amp, whatever, you don't have to worry about that rating. Now, it does take a little getting used to, but it's a pretty durable hood, and it's definitely an option to auto-darkening helmets. Now, this is super durable. It's like 1/8 of an inch thick, which makes it a little heavy. But the reason I bought this, actually, other than the novelty, you know, I got the hog t-shirts, the Welding hog. But other than the novelty of having a hog, I thought it might help with the respirator that I had at the time, because it's got this big space in here. You know, turns out I found a respirator that works pretty much with any helmet I have anyway. But that's the reason I bought it to start with, was thinking it was going to help wearing a respirator on certain jobs. And now it just hangs around on the wall as kind of a, you know, conversation piece. This is a very unusual helmet, and back again, after I owned one of these and sold it to a guy, you know, I got one of these. This is a Huntsman, and the helmet it's a 955P. Got a little air cylinder here and a little mouthpiece, like a little clarinet mouthpiece, and basically just takes a little puff of air and it raises the lens up and down, so it goes from clear to whatever lens you put in there, just like an auto-darkening helmet with just a little puff or a suck. Now, let me just say this. This has been discontinued, apparently, that you can't get it anymore. It actually worked really well. I used it, I moonlighted for a while, back around, I don't know, 92, 93, 94, in that time. I moonlighted quite a bit. You know, I worked at a major airline during the day, and then worked at a sheet metal fab shop during the evenings. Well, I had a lot of kids to feed, and we were going through 7 gallons of milk a week back then, so, you know, I had to moonlight. First of all, this was doomed to fail just because if you've ever worked around a bunch of welders, you know, having that in your helmet is a problem. And then if you also call it Easy View by Dick Bean, you're doomed to fail. Okay, little free marketing advice for anyone trying to, you know, come up with this to revive this design of helmet. Let me give you a real quick peek of the weld cap here. I'm not sure if this comes this way. I think you have to snap this all together out of the box, but this is basically what it is. It's all soft, and it's a ball cap, like with a little adjustable clasp on the back, just like any ball cap you would buy at the store, and it's all soft textile type fire retardant material, and the lens on the inside has a little cutout for your nose, and the theory is that it gets the lens closer to your face, and therefore gives you a wider viewing angle. Well, I put it on and tried it out a little bit, and I guess it's the old dog new tricks thing. It's not for me. Let's talk about a few of the welding helmets that you saw me use at the beginning of this video. This is what's known as a pipeliner style helmet, and it's made by fiber metal. And typically pipeliner helmets, if they don't come like this with a rubber strap or a piece of surgical tubing here instead of the ratchet knob, a lot of guys will just make it that way by just cutting, making a split here and sticking a piece of surgical tubing in there. Now that really comes in handy when you're turning your head sideways underneath the pipe as you transition. The last thing you want is your helmet to tilt and you can't get a good view of where the rod is and the puddle and the root pass and the gap and all. One thing about this helmet is it is pretty much, you know, moving part free except for the swivel joints here for the headgear. There's no ratchet, there's no flip up thing to go wrong or wear out. So this is like a, you know, this is a helmet that's going to last for years and years, but not for everybody, not for everything. Another passive helmet, passive lens type helmet. Now listen, well, these passive lens helmets, don't forget, you can actually get lenses that are no bigger than the size lens that goes in here, the 2 by 4 1/4. You can get an auto-darkening lens that goes in here, so it doesn't have to be a passive helmet if you don't want it to be, but you're going to have a pretty narrow viewing area. But this is a Huntsman 411P. Had this one a long time. It's kind of a vulcanized cardboard, whatever, but kind of lightweight and no flip up, but for aircraft welding that I used to do, it was a great helmet. This is a Jackson Shadow. This is a good helmet, especially for somebody, you know, first learning to weld. If you can't afford an auto darkening helmet or just want to start off with a passive lens. It's got the large viewing area. For beginners, that seems to help. Got the nice long chin scoop here to kind of prevent sunburn on if you forget to button up your shirt. And you know, they're relatively inexpensive. This is my first Speed Glass helmet. I don't know the exact model. It's Speed Glass XL. But here's the thing with helmets. Okay, this helmet is, I got this probably around the 1995 time frame. And it was a pretty expensive helmet. Like, it was well over $300 at the time. It was awesome. I loved it. It's very small, very flexible, so I could jam my head in tight spots. And at the time, occasionally I was going out and climbing up in the exhaust of a aircraft engine and doing a little weld repair here and there. So having it, you know, nice and narrow and light and being able to jam my head in places was a plus. And it worked great. But I was using typically, back then, a Synchrowave 250 welding machine, a transformer welding machine. Later on, I get this thing out and I'm using strictly inverters, and I'm having problems with it flashing me. So, you know, you kind of, auto-darkening helmets are in a sense, a little bit like computers are. You just have to kind of get a new one every now and then to keep up with technology. They design the helmets around, obviously, around the arc that they're going to be, you know, seeing. And so what happens is, I think anyway, inverters have a much smoother arc on DC. Therefore the light waves are not picked up as readily by the sensors here, and that's the only thing I can attribute it to, because this one still works fine with a transformer machine, or if I just flick it over to 30 or 40 pulses a second, I don't have any problem with it flashing me. But with a straight up low amperage arc, I got big problems on this. So while it was an awesome helmet in its day, it doesn't help me out much now when I'm welding on inverters. This is a Huntsman 951P 951P helmet with a AutoView VLS. So that it's a cartridge that fits in this helmet just like the regular size lens. And so if that auto darkening, if I run out of batteries, I can, you know, if I wanted to, I could just put a regular lens in it, use standard size cover plates, which is awesome. I could actually take this lens out and put in that Jackson Shadow if I wanted to. So I used this helmet for a lot of years, and while it's only got 2 sensors on it, I really never had any problem with it flashing. Generally speaking, 4 sensors is better than 2, 3 is better than 2. You know, this one, as far as I can tell, only has 1. But this one has 2 sensors, but never let me down really. And so I gave this one high marks. It's not all that light, but you know, I put a lot of time on this one here. When I got this helmet, just to try out to see if I could even recommend it for even beginners, I tried it out and I was welding on an aircraft fuselage, 4130 chromoly tubing, so it was very low amperage with gaps, so it's really low amperage a lot of times. But I was using a Synchrowave 250 for the whole thing because it was on location at a... Anyway, it worked fine. It worked just fine. I put my magnifier lens in here and it never got flashed, even though I was in odd positions. Took it home, used it on my Dynasty 200DX inverter TIG welder, flashed me all the time. So the arc was different. The arc was so much smoother on the Dynasty that these sensors had a hard time picking it up. So this would not be a good choice for low amperage using a TIG inverter. So that's what I learned from that. All right, this is a Lincoln Viking 3350. It's got 4 sensors. This is my go-to helmet now. This is the helmet that I prefer to pick up and use for everything these days. I got some others, obviously hanging on the wall. I got this Jackson Next Gen here, which is still pretty good. I've got the Jackson Balder. I'll show you that in just a second. You know, it's a personal preference thing, that's all. I like the way it feels. I like the way it ratchets on my head. I like the adjustments, the sensitivity, the delay and grind mode and all that stuff. And I like the fact that I can stick a cheater lens in there, and you know, it just fits. It comes down where it's supposed to come down and lines up with my glasses. And this is the Jackson Balder helmet. I can't remember the exact. I think it's BH3. got some kind of model name to it, but anyway, you recognize it if you go online and look at CyberWeld or other sites if you're interested in one. This is a pretty good helmet. It's got 2 sensors. They advertise it as being super awesome in optical clarity. That's kind of a perception thing. I put on all these helmets and welded briefly with them, and yes, it is very clear as far as the crispness, the detail that you see. I find the same thing with this, with the linking Viking 3350. So, both good helmets. Okay, well now, I get a lot of questions about seeing the puddle. Guys talking about how the dickens of a time seeing where I'm going. Well, it could be a lot of things. Number one thing is is your eyes. Do you need glasses? Are you on the verge of needing glasses and you just hadn't gone to the eye doctor to see if you need them? Have you tried just getting some reading glasses? Have you tried, you just go to the dollar store or the drugstore or whatever, get some fine print, hold it about the distance that you think you're going to be welding from you, probably about 14 to 18 inches or so, maybe somewhere in that range, and put on glasses until that fine print just pops where you can see the details. Try that. Don't forget, use a clean, clear lens. And if you've got an auto-darkening helmet that's got a unique lens and you don't have any clean ones on hand, Novus number 2 polish can really go a long way. It won't make them like brand new, but it really cleans them up, makes them almost like new, and man, you can tell a difference if you've been welding with one for a while and you got a lot of sparks on there. It eventually scratches. It makes it really hard to see and you don't really realize it, but then when you clean it up like this, man, it makes a huge difference. So as far as seeing goes, that's my suggestions, along with buying the best helmet you can. And if an auto darkening is not working out for you, maybe try a gold lens on a standard passive type helmet. It doesn't really matter. Just find a helmet. A Jackson Shadow would be a good choice if you're going to not use an auto dark lens. Get a Jackson Shadow. Brand new clear lens, brand new gold lens. Start off with the number 10 and go from there. See how that works. Try a few things. You can usually find something that works, but across the board, having a clean, clear lens always helps. Having glasses if you need them always helps. Sometimes, you don't even really need glasses, but a very slight magnification can make things really pop. That's an option. You don't need glasses at all. You read the newspaper fine, but maybe using a 1.25 or a 1.5 magnifier in your helmet, really, it's just like reading the paper with a magnifying glass. It just makes things pop. Well, that about wraps it up for this week. I'd like to know what you think.